Welcome aboard to episode 8 of Men on Trek. Tonight, we are covering Amok Time. And we are back again. This is Admiral Looks Good in Red Keith with Captain Mark Daystrom, who may or may not be great, Captain James T. Palpatine, and of course, the guy who actually does the work, Lieutenant Audio Arthur.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Amok Time. When every couple years, everybody feels a certain something.
Oh, this is gonna be a good episode. My loins are yearning to get going.
Oh my goodness.
Well, we're going. So, Amok Time, Season 2, Episode 1, that kicked it off with a bang. Originally aired on September 15th, 1967. Actually, one of my childhood favorite episodes.
Top five for me.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
It's up there. I don't know if it's a top 5.
How can this not be in your top 5 after the way you carried on?
They used the word property in this. How could you not like this?
Wait, how can this not be in your top 5? One word, to pring. How can this not be in your top 5?
Yeah, I never really thought about rating it like that, but it's definitely
It's
definitely a high.
It's about how
episode.
it made you feel.
Whew. All right, let's get this show on the road.
I think we should apologize to Arthur now. It's going to have to work.
A lot of red alerts coming.
A lot of damage control.
A lot of phasers.
So, yes, Season 2, Episode 1. Season picks up in the hallway. Intro shot on the Enterprise, another day on the Enterprise, and McCoy catches Kirk in the hallway and says, "Have you noticed anything about Spock lately?"
And Kirk seemed very. He's busy.
Yeah,
he
Kirk
came up as being like, what is this?
Yeah,
I got stuff to do.
Kirk's like, "I am the captain of the ship. I
That's
don't
right.
have time to fool with you right now.
Yeah.
I've got stuff to do."
Spock's cranky. Thank you. I got to move on.
Yeah. And McCoy tries to talk to him about it, and Kirk's like, "Sounds like he's doing one of his introspective meditation things, and I have things to attend to."
Mm-hmm.
And McCoy says, "Well, we've been trying to get him to eat. He's not eating. And there is a little matter of him threatening to break my neck."
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And Kirk's like, "Really?"
Well, Kirk blows it off. He goes, Spock's just in one of his contemplative
Oh, yeah.
phases.
Until McCoy tells him,
He wants
that he's going to break his
threatened
neck.
to break my neck.
And that got Kirk's attention, but it really didn't. He wasn't really going to, I think, act on it. Then Chapel comes around the corner with a bowl of
the soup.
Tolmic?
The Vulcan Tolmic soup. Yes.
Lomic.
No.
I think the P's silent.
Yeah,
Lomics.
they pronounce things funny. It's probably Polmic
Vulcan Polmic
soup.
Yeah.
It's red. We know that.
It's purple.
Purple?
It's purple.
Yeah, it's purple.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah, there it is.
It might look red when he throws it against the wall, though.
Is that remaster purple?
That
or
might
was it
be
always-
remaster purple.
Was it always purple?
I never saw the originals in color anyways. I saw it on a black and white TV. Zenith 19-inch.
In your bedroom.
That's right. 2 dials, man. Remember? It was like
Yeah.
VHF
Well,
and UHF.
Hey,
We're talking to an audience that might not know about those things.
Black and white.
I was rocking a 20-ish inch color
You had a color TV?
Yeah, he's another.
Yeah,
he's a
my-
generation behind us. So.
in my room.
Oh, he's not that far behind us.
A little bit.
Almost.
Oh, Admiral, how old are you?
What? On air?
Yeah.
48-ish.
Are you 48? See, he's only 7 years behind. That's not a generation.
That's darn near a generation.
Well, it was a gift from a uncle who was comfortably well off. So
Oh,
You know how much
he was
cha-
rich.
You know how much change in 8 years? Shoot.
He was
Junior-
rich.
Junior Admiral had a color TV in his room.
Nice. Good for you.
That's from privilege.
That's privilege.
It was my it was my hand-me-down privilege.
Privilege.
When your uncle gets a new TV and he drops that hand-me-down on you, that's privilege.
You.
I was privileged to receive it.
All right, let's go.
Nurse Chapel goes in. Spock yells something along the lines of,
If I want something from you, I'll
I'll
ask
ask for it. Chucks the soup against the wall.
Nurse Chapel gets a good scream.
Yes, she does. Yeah.
She gets screen time. And this is so out of character for Spock.
Completely.
What I like is when they do it and he comes out and he's berating her. Everybody in the hallway stops.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
and turns and finds to watch what's going on.
There's the windup and the pitch.
And then Spock rolls right. You know what he does? He rolls right over her and starts rolling right onto Kirk. He's like, I want leave.
And I want it now.
I want it now.
Yes
All
or
I
no?
need from you is
Is
a
it
yes
yes
or
or
no.
no?
Yeah, it's very good.
But there's also a hint of embarrassment. Spock's not on board with his behavior. He's not. He's not happy about it. It's right off the bat. He's not in control.
Right.
Not in control.
All right,
Yeah.
this is not your average Spock. And once again, the audience doesn't know what's going on. You're following with the ship, following with the characters. You're left in the dark. They don't spell it out for you. You're just holding on to say, well, what the heck is going on with Spock?
Right. Spock's lost
Because
it.
this is completely unspockish or un-Vulcan-like.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Can you imagine a ship of individuals who are emotionalists, and then one day
the Intrepid.
they wake up and they've got emotions and they're all tripping?
The Intrepid would have been that way. The Intrepid was a Vulcan ship.
I think the Vulcans have enough sense to look at your birthday
Oh,
and count
yeah.
numbers.
Well, yeah, I'm sure
We can only have so many of this number.
But no, the implication, the implication.
I wonder if they sync up.
the implication.
You know, like women's menstrual cycles. If
Some
they're
of-
together, they sync up. I wonder if the Vulcan
Well,
ship,
no.
like they were good for 6 years,
No.
11 months, and 29 days, and then the whole ship had to go to Vulcan.
Let's not give too much information before we get
But
there.
here's the implication.
No, because you'd have somebody nutting out on the
Somebody
Intrepid every day.
Yes.
Every day.
That's the implication. Somebody's going to be
in Amok Time.
in somebody's going to be on the Pon Farr. At least one guy on the ship's going to be on the Pon Farr all the time.
I don't know if we need to give this information to the listeners of the podcast ahead, other than have we normally done it,
No,
because
let's get there.
okay, all
Do
right.
you really think anybody listening to this podcast doesn't know what Pon Farr is?
Yes,
Yeah.
You really
yes,
think so?
Yeah.
I really do.
Okay. Well,
I think we have some subscribers that this is their first.
Star Trek experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
First
well,
intro.
We'll
into
need
Trek.
to be. We need to act responsibly.
Right. I think they need to have the under a background understanding.
I think this is a great opportunity. If you're listening at this point and you don't know what that is, you don't know what Pon Farr is, say so in the comments. But I vote to leave you in suspense for just a little while.
It's not that long.
Okay,
Just a
Admiral.
little while.
All right, Admiral.
Yeah.
And I do
This
it
one time,
and
I'll give
I
you
do it because Captain Daystrom likes to read the end of the book first.
Really?
Yes,
And
I do.
I'm not
really?
going
Yes,
to
I
give
do.
it to him.
I like watching how the story
I'm making him wait.
unfolds that I
I'm
know
making
the
you wait.
ending to.
Okay. I think it's pretty common.
Yeah. So
All right,
so
let's rock
so
on.
wind that back
Okay. All right, I'll leave it
and
alone.
hold your Pon Farr piece.
But I think it's going to be difficult for us to move through this episode knowing what we know and not giving hints of the potential outcome. But all right.
we got a little ways to go.
Okay.
So, compounding Spock's strange behavior, the Enterprise is due at Altair 6 for a very important event, and they're going to have to bust out some pretty heavy warp speed to get there on time as it is.
Right.
They've got to get there for the presidential inauguration.
Yay.
And we get more about that later, but it's a big deal. They got to get there. And Spock's request for leave, even though he calculates that getting him to Vulcan will only take him about 2+ days, 2.5-ish days out of the way, Altair 6 is the priority. So Kirk's pressing him for the why. Why do you need to go on leave right now? Right?
Yeah.
So
This is like a math program, you know. When you're
Well,
sitting-
Kirk walks into Spock's quarters after the soup is thrown, closes the door, and he starts to talk to Spock. And Spock's holding like
A stylus.
Stylus.
Not a knife. It's a stylus.
well, I think he could kill you with it.
Oh, it probably
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
And he's holding it, and his hand is shaking, and they have the conversation, and Spock is like, "Look, I want to go on leave."
Right.
And Kirk's like, "Well, why? You know, I mean, you've refused leave. Now you need to go." And he goes, "Why? I'm not going to tell you. I just need to go."
And I've got plenty of time saved up, and why are you hassling me about
right.
it? And that stylus, certain individuals kill people with pencils. So Spock can probably make it happen with a stylus.
So he just basically, Spock tells him, "I can't tell you why. I just need to go." And I think Kirk says, "Okay, we'll head to Vulcan."
Right.
But as he's talking to the bridge, he kind of steps up and he can see behind Spock's back, and Spock's holding the stylus / Jim Bowie knife, and his hand is shaking.
His hand is shaking.
And I always thought I remember when I was a kid, I thought he was getting ready to stick that in Kirk's neck.
I think he was fighting the urge.
Yeah.
Fighting the urge to put Kirk in the hurt locker.
And then Kirk says on his way out, he goes, "I guess we all forget that even Vulcans aren't indestructible."
Right.
Yeah.
And Spock says, "No, we are not."
That's right.
After Kirk leaves.
Yeah.
He's definitely having some control issues, which is really weird for Spock. We haven't seen Spock out of control at this point in the series.
Yep.
So
Cut
Kirk's
to the
like-
bridge. Cut to the bridge.
Cut to the bridge. Kirk's like, "Hey, we can deviate. We can detour for Spock until
Message comes from
Uhura.
Yeah.
Uhura telling them that it's a message from the Admiral, and
the event has been
the
pushed
event
up.
at
7
Altair-
solar days.
Altair 6 has been pushed up 7 days, and you got to be there, Kirk. We need Starfleet's #1 boy. They're doing the politicking.
Enterprise isn't the flagship, then, is it?
Politics.
Not at this point. No.
No, it's not. But he's their top tier captain.
Even at this point, even that's up for debate. I mean, it works out that way, but
Right.
in the course of the series, he's the youngest captain. He's probably looked at as the rookie.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I don't know. From all the episodes you go through, Kirk is thought well of by Commodore Decker and
Yeah, he's considered.
all the different ones. So.
He's talented and what have you, and that's why he's the youngest captain in Starfleet.
He would be their golden boy.
The up and coming,
golden
young
boy.
guy. Yeah,
He's the golden boy. There's no way around that. He's a up and coming guy who's checked all the boxes, who's passed every test.
But
He's the future of Starfleet.
yeah, but at some point in this series, there's an older, more experienced captain who hasn't died yet.
Yeah, that's true. But he's still the young golden boy.
Oh yeah, he's coming up. He's coming up.
So he tells Spock, "Hey, sorry, what is it? Any port that I'm going to be in is not my home port."
Yeah, fortunes of the service.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Then Kirk, you cut to him kind of relaxing in his quarters,
and it's
Meditating over it.
bothering him.
and he reaches over and contacts Chekhov and says, "Hey, how long would it take us to reach Vulcan at maximum warp?" And Chekhov is like, "I don't understand. We are on course for Vulcan."
Yes.
And Kirk just clicks off that monitor, and then the next scene, Spock is leaning over his scanner, and you just hear Kirk's voice, "Mr. Spock, will you come with me?" He's got his hands on his hips.
To the principal's office.
And he's standing by the turbo lift.
Right. It brings back those thoughts of being in school. And
somebody comes to your classroom.
Or not even over the PA. Come to the office. You're like, oh my God.
Oh, you got the PA?
Yeah, we got the PA. Nobody wastes time to come down to the glass. You were on blast over the PA.
We got the PA later, and when we were in the younger school days, they sent a runner, and I think half of that was to make sure you made it to the office.
So
He calls Spock into the turbo lift, and he goes, "Why'd you do it?" And he's, "What?" And he said, "Change course for Vulcan." And he goes, "Well, I don't know." And he goes, "You deny doing it?" He goes,
Did I really do that?
"I don't know if I did it or not. You're probably right. I probably did do it. I just don't remember."
Yeah, and Spock, this is really kind of crazy because Spock's just like, "Hey, I'm out of control."
Well, he actually says at one point, "Lock me up.
yep.
Yeah,
I don't want to be seen like this."
yeah, and again, he's embarrassed.
Right.
This is really troublesome for him.
Well, Nimoy does a great job. you get all these emotions from him. He's angry. He's embarrassed. He's confused. I mean, he does a great job.
The Vulcan is having mood swings.
That's right.
And that's crazy. It just makes
That's what I'm saying, man. You're on a Vulcan ship with a bunch of people, and you don't know who guy from day to day is going to trip.
The Intrepid had to have some different rules.
Oh, most definitely.
Because there had to be some Pon Farr killings.
Or would you put? No, see, how do you go there? Let's just keep rolling, because there's so much you can say. You're using a term that hasn't even come up in the show yet, and you say you don't want to give out more information. But you keep using a term. I can't play off of that term because that's giving for information, future information.
It's called torture, Captain.
I might as well just sit here until the Mrs. Dupree show up.
Well, you just said something that hasn't been said in the episode.
Doesn't matter. You're getting away with it.
So Spock shows up to sick bay. He says, I'm here. I'm reporting as my duty, and now I'm leaving. And McCoy goes, I report to the same captain as you do, so get on the bed.
Yeah, you got to submit to this exam.
What's interesting, Spock says, it's not going to help you, nor me.
Right.
It's not going to change anything.
Yeah.
And McCoy says, submit to the logic, Spock.
Yeah, that's a great line. Couple of great lines in this.
Yeah.
I mean, not worthy of a soundbite, but,
I don't know. There's the one.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Oh, yeah, that one's the one at the end definitely has to be a soundbite.
Don't give anything away too early.
I'm not. I'm just saying
Captain Daystrom.
one at the end has to be a soundbite.
So then they cut to the bridge, and Chekhov and Sulu are kind of bantering about a little bit. And he says, first we were on course to Altair, then Vulcan, then
back to Altair,
and then Vulcan, and back again. He goes, I think I'm going to be space sick. No.
And Sulu's like, I think you better lay in another course just in case.
Just in case. But then Kirk goes to talk to McCoy, or McCoy comes in and talks to Kirk at his ready room and informs him that he has to go back to Vulcan.
He's got to get to Vulcan,
or Spock will die.
Spock will die.
And he doesn't have any real, I won't say understanding. The reason is because of Spock's medical condition. His adrenaline is rushing. His body's running rampant.
His physiology is unbalanced, and McCoy can't figure out why, but it is.
And Spock knows why, but not telling.
And won't tell.
Yeah. And a great line from Kirk is, are you a doctor or aren't you?
Yeah, Kirk's like, what do you mean you don't know why?
Yeah. So now we get set up for Kirk's got a...
Well, Kirk makes a call.
Yeah.
Well, Kirk goes to Spock first.
Right.
Goes to Spock, back to Spock's quarters. We get a lot of Spock's quarters in this episode.
We do.
I think we see more of it than you've ever seen.
Got the chest set up there.
Yeah.
Yep.
The 4D chess set.
And the handheld weapons.
Yeah. I always thought it resided in the rec room, but it looks like Spock's been carrying it up there for those for those tournaments.
Or maybe they sprung for 2 sets.
More than likely. More than likely.
So Kirk comes back into Spock's quarters, but Spock's got Facebook up, and he's checking out a little girl.
And yeah, that's not looking real good.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's looking. She's young. She looks young in the picture.
Well,
she is. She's 7. She should be 7 in the picture.
Childhood
picture.
Yeah.
Childhood friends.
And Kirk's like, listen, I got to help you. And I like the way that he puts it. He's like, I'm not really here only for you.
Right.
I'm here for me
Right.
because you're the best first
Second
officer
right.
in the fleet.
Right.
And that's a great asset to me. He says it right to him. He says, that's a great asset to me.
Right.
So if I'm going to lose that, I need to know why.
Kirk's flanking him a bit right there. Kirk knows he can't make the emotional appeal. He's coming at him from the logical standpoint.
Right.
He's being pragmatic.
Yep. And so that begins a sort of semi-uncomfortable conversation about Spock trying to describe that he's so horny.
First, Kirk says whatever you say is going to be confidential.
Completely confidential.
Like you wouldn't think it would be confidential before, but but Kirk makes that
promise.
That
extra reassurance.
That extra promise. And then Spock is hemming and hawing. Like, it's about biology.
Spock doesn't want to tell him.
what type of biology are we talking about? Talking about Vulcan biology, and then they hammer it all down.
This scene's actually hilarious. There's got to be a blooper reel where they just couldn't hold it together because they're standing there kind of not looking at each other. And Spock's like, biology, and Kirk's like, what do you mean?
Vulcan biology or the biology of Vulcans?
Spock's like, biology, and Kirk's like, Vulcan biology, and they're not looking at each other, and even both actors at that point almost got a smirk on their face. To me, this scene is it's supposed to be serious, but it's almost funny.
Yeah, it's drawn out somewhat comically.
It's almost funny, and I just imagine people breaking character a lot and having to do a lot of takes on this. But
so he explains to them that it is the reproductive biology of Vulcans,
birds and the bee,
that is in play here.
Yes,
and I think Spock asked him a question. Don't you? What do you think that our
how do you
process,
think that works?
Yeah, it would work.
Kirk says quite logically.
Quite logically.
And Spock says, "Oh no."
Thank you for putting words in my mouth. But oh no, it's not logically. So here is a point where this species loses all logic, and with logic goes reason,
right.
And with reason goes control. So you got a ship of 400 of these guys. This is what I was alluding to earlier.
Right.
You got a ship with 400 of these guys. Is it best to have so many born at us? Because later on we find out that there's a time frame wherein this happens to Vulcans.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have a ship that all of them have the same birthday, and you make sure you bring the ship into space dock before they nut out? Or do you have a certain segment of the ship on this born of this month, born that month?
Or I think there's another solution. You could have them already. All of them have had the marriage ceremony, and they have their spouses on board.
So they're going to be older.
Yeah,
you could do that.
Yeah,
or you really spice things up, and the betrothed one is on the ship as well.
Well, that's what he was saying.
No, he's saying that they've already got that settled.
Right.
I'm saying
no. You wouldn't. No, that's a mistake. That's a mistake. We'll find
spicy.
out. We'll see.
It's spicy.
Yeah, that's lunacy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't want the betrothed one on board. That's not a sealed deal.
No, it's not a sealed deal.
Fellow listeners, you will find out as we make it down our rabbit hole here.
They know
that the betrothed one doesn't necessarily have your best interests at heart.
Well, I think we can introduce terms and define them now, right?
Does Spock actually say the word?
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're here, Captain.
Okay.
We're here.
Let's deal with it.
We've made it.
Mr.
Pon
I want
Farr.
to give terms beforehand. Explain Pon Farr.
I didn't want to steal your thunder.
Admiral.
You were on deck.
Admiral, explain Pon
Oh no,
Farr.
I'm delegating. Explain. Remember.
So what we have here, listeners, is Pon Farr is a Vulcan.
Remember, Arena? My revenge.
I won't say a ritual, but a Vulcan condition where the sex drive of, it seems to be the male, has ramped up to a degree that all logic has ceased from the Vulcan male.
The male is in heat.
Essentially.
So as I said prior, that if logic is stripped away, reason is stripped away, and self-control is stripped away, and you have an alien male that is stronger than everybody, except for other Vulcans, smarter than everybody in general, but has no more restraint to him. One of the great things about Spock is Spock's restraint. He doesn't seek, he's not violent. Vulcans generally are not violent.
Or impulsive.
But during Pon Farr, there's a whole nother ball game. Just as Spock pointed out, he might have changed the ship's course and doesn't recall.
Right.
You have a loose cannon on your ship, and the episode spirals down from here.
And it's and the primal part of him is in control, and he can't be responsible for his actions.
Oh, he can be responsible. He will be responsible for his actions.
He just won't remember them.
But he can't control his actions.
That's what I mean.
It's a different layout. So Kirk is talking to Spock, having Spock revealed this inner secret. Because
Right.
as you say, although Vulcans don't have emotion, this is a shameful part of them.
Yes, embarrassing.
That at this point in their lives, although they pride themselves on logic,
And control.
the biological function strips them of logic. The biological imperative to mate strips them of logic. That's why you don't want a ship full of a bunch of Vulcans.
Go back to that.
Bunch of Vulcans who are not already sealed the deal. Let me say it that way.
Gotten married.
Or you're gonna they probably have to have an officer who keeps track of people.
Yeah, there's the ship's doctor
All
on.
right, all
They
right.
could be doing self-screening, almost like
No,
COVID.
no,
Like the
no,
temperature probably
no,
goes up, or they get a
no.
cough
No,
or something.
no. The ship's doctor's got to have everybody's birthday.
Lieutenant Jones needs to leave ship, Captain.
The ship's doctor's got to have everybody's birthday
Their adrenals going up.
and
They probably,
betrothal.
they probably got a month. We need to drop them off on a planet or put them in a shuttle and get them off. I don't mean it like that. Get them off the ship.
Only you were thinking that.
Get them off the ship.
Only you were thinking that. And we got you. We got you.
Audio after
Got
work,
you.
work magic.
We got you. Right? No, there's no magic.
So Kirk says, I didn't hear any of this, and I'll get you to Vulcan somehow.
He goes to talk to the boss.
Right.
He makes contact with the Starfleet sector commander, Admiral Comac.
And Comac says, absolutely not.
Comac says, Altair 6 is a big deal politically. We got to send a message, and he brings up the current balance between them and the Klingons, and he says this has to happen.
Right.
No
So
detour.
Kirk doesn't say no. He just shuts off the communication, and McCoy goes, well, that's it. McCoy knows. He's listened to Men on Trek. He knows that if you leave a switch open or disobey a command, your career is over with.
This gets into how strict Starfleet is.
Orders are orders.
You don't sign on to duty on the starship without having committed yourself to a 5-year run, and you might not get home to see your loved ones who have lost lives or died or whatever. You're on a starship, and the duty might take you somewhere. As Kirk told Spock, every port
It's not
is
home.
available, but it's not home.
All right.
And when Spock was originally asking for shore leave, Kirk's like, okay, we're going to Altair. They got great leave.
They got great
potential.
facilities.
They got great facilities. But that's not where Spock wants to go. Spock needs to get home. But you might not get home. See, the beauty of the fantasy of Star Trek, we always think of the good stuff. Oh, I get to travel around the stars and I get adventure, but you get adventure that you might not want. Okay, go out there as a planet killer and go out there and deal with it.
It's like
You're
any,
like, whoa, let
it's
me
like-
off the ship.
it's like any military deployment. You don't get to decide when it's over.
And that's the truth. Starfleet is a military assignment. I know they in the movies they try to make it out.
Next Gen is when they really nerfed it
Yeah,
and kind
they-
of tried to say they were exploratory.
Yeah, they tried to nerf it, but it's you signed on a military contract. You go where I tell you to go.
You're wearing uniforms.
you do-
People have rank.
You do what
There's
I
weapons.
tell you to do.
There's rules.
And one mistake you make might cost the whole ship its life and might definitely cost you your career.
It's interesting because Kirk says, I owe my life a dozen times. And he goes, isn't a career worth that? And he has this look on his face, it's almost pained. Like he knows that he has to do it. But Kirk's not one of these guys who just throws his career away and not feel it.
And McCoy's looking back at him like, no. McCoy's looking back at him like, no, don't think so. It's really not.
When you consider the potential loss of life in a deep space scenario,
Right.
the potential hazards, and as you said, a crew member dies. I think we did in one track, court martial.
Right.
If someone dies, you have to go and give a huge report. Is there a huge thing about it? I don't think there
Not
is.
normally.
Because it's expected.
Absolutely.
And when we did The Ultimate Computer, that was Daystром's big problem. The men were going out into space and losing their lives, he thought, unnecessarily.
Right.
So Kirk has to deal with the consequence of an order from Starfleet, following that or potentially losing one of his best friend.
Well, it's interesting in this case because, once again, we talk about the excellence of the writing here. There was the first order that you had to go. Then there was a clarification that you got to go sooner.
Right.
And then he actually got on the horn and talked directly to his
CO.
His CO, and his CO said, "No." I mean,
You have to be there.
Yeah.
Told him, hey, I got a medical emergency here. I really need to divert. And that admiral went, nope.
Well, Kirk couldn't
So it's not that
explain
he's
the
just
emergency.
It's not that he's just disobeying an order. He's disobeying a direct order
A
at this point.
confirmed
Yeah,
direct order.
yeah,
That has been received 3 times.
because that's court martial.
Yeah, that's done.
That's over.
You're done.
Your career is done.
Yeah.
Not only probably imprisoned.
Ooh.
I don't know about that. I think
You'll do time. You'll do time for diverting a starship without authorization.
okay.
You'll do time
All
for that. I think.
If not, they bust him in rank.
Oh, that's coming.
I think they'll wash him.
Yeah,
He's
he's
think they're watching.
I think when he gets out of jail, he's out of Starfleet.
Yeah, who wants a failed captain on
Nobody.
their crew?
Oh, a lot of merchant marines would take a starship.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Take a starship captain.
Yeah, he might go in.
Flying.
He might go in the murder.
That's why I think we need to do bread and circuses.
I thought you just say we were doing everything?
Flying rubber
Did
dog.
you want to tell our fans that?
Did I? I'm the captain of suspense. I don't really want them to know what we're going to do too far in advance, other than
Well, we had talked about
No.
we were going to do the top 10 or 15 episodes.
for us.
And now Captain Daystrom has basically made the declarative statement, which we have agreed with, that we're going to do every episode.
No, I said myself and Admiral Redshirt have come to a consensus that we should do every episode. Not that we were going to. We want it to be universally agreed. This would be better for the fandom if we did them all.
Well, I'm in. What about you, Audio Arthur?
It's fine with me.
Audio Arthur.
It's a
Audio Arthur lives here. He has no choice.
I hate to leave anything undone. I mean, somebody out there's got a favorite episode that we might not cover if we were left to our own devices.
And might not like. See, I want.
Could I have a pass on the I Mud episode though? I mean, Barry.
No. We got to play off of just how you feel.
No,
All right.
because we share a deep hatred for Hardcore Fenton Mud, and if I gotta be here, oh no,
Hardcore Fenton Mud. But nonetheless, this episode reveals so much about Starfleet. You know, you're in the service. You signed up for this, and your away missions and different things, you could potentially lose your life in many different ways. If you start to consider the Earth and how many spiders and different animals that could take your life at a drop of a hat,
most of them,
and you're beaming down, it's like the black mamba, snake, different snake species. One bite and you're done. And you're going from planet to planet, you're beaming down. You have to be willing to accept what your commander tells you. And you can be beaming down to
sounds like the military to me.
beaming down to a very hazardous location. Now, they're on the ship, but they're light years away from where Spock needs to be, and command tells him
3 solar days.
you cannot get there.
Right.
Until there was 3 solar days before they start bouncing back and forth.
Right.
Now, as I was saying earlier, and excuse me for going long, think of this as a math problem. How long does it take you to get to Vulcan at warp 6 from this location and warp 8 from that location, because you're constantly bouncing back and forth?
Right.
And Sulu, and then Chekhov just does the calculations. And
Sulu and Chekhov are kind of funny in this episode too, because it's one of the rare times you get the thing of like, they're the junior guys in this. They're they don't really get to make a lot of decisions. And you never really think about it. But they're two young lieutenants.
That's true. But what I like about that interplay is they're thinking ahead.
They are.
What will my commander say
Showing
next?
initiative.
We're bouncing back and forth. And Sulu goes, yeah, I don't know. Maybe you ought to.
Be ready.
Put in that.
Well, the other
course.
thing, and I don't know, and I'm sure there's a way to find out. But I think when I was always seeing it as a kid and then saw it later, it was like Vulcan's over here and Altair's over here, and they're doing this. But Altair could be here and Vulcan could be here. And the Enterprise is literally just yo-yoing.
That's the way I always looked at it.
You know,
That's the way I always looked at it.
You know,
Instead of the bing, 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 making your way up, it's like they're in the middle.
When Spock first mentioned it, I thought of a straight line shot, but with a divot and out and back. But you're right, 3-dimensional space.
Yeah,
they could literally be doing an elliptical as they lay in a new course.
So Kirk says we're going to go to Vulcan. Nurse Chapel hears it. She gets all giddy, and then we have a scene where she appears in Spock's quarters, standing by his bedside
as he sleeps.
And she's getting ready to like brush his cheek.
She just doesn't appear when Kirk was having the conversation with McCoy. They were going back to Altair.
McCoy says, "Go ahead and tell him."
She dashes out.
Right.
Well, McCoy kind of like, "Go ahead and tell him."
Almost running down the hall with a little smile on her face. And she enters into a man's quarters.
They don't seem to have door locks on the ship.
I don't think he locks it. Not like you can kick his butt when you come inside. He's Spock. All you got to do is touch you on the neck and you're done. But nonetheless, she comes in and she brushes his hair. And we have a tender moment.
Well, she wants a tender moment.
They give the writers give us a tender moment.
No, I think the writers give us something else.
It's close, because he says something about it's pointless for us to deny
our biology.
No,
it's not a tender moment. It's Spock thinking, I can't get to Vulcan and I might have to make a compromise.
I don't think that's it at all.
I think it is. Spock's looking at her like, I know you like me. I've always known you like me.
He gets his mojo on.
He does.
Puts his hand up at one point.
That's what I'm talking about. Spock goes, I can't get to Vulcan.
He does say something about
there's no point denying
something. Yeah.
Denying our feeling. He's always known he's been ignoring her. But now that he feels like he can't get to Vulcan.
Says to protest against our natures.
Yes.
Yeah.
You called it. Spock's breaking out his game. He's getting ready to make a compromise here. He's breaking out the game and he's getting ready to.
And then Chapel does she blows the side chick opportunity by saying, I don't understand.
Yeah. Well,
which is the immediate okay, I gotta stop. Right.
Hold on. You done ran to the man's room to let him know that he's going to be safe.
It's not how she
because you care.
Well, really,
and when he starts to reciprocate, that's a standard female response.
What really
he starts to reciprocate.
What really blows it, or actually allows Spock to recover, is she tells him they're going to Vulcan.
Why don't these chicks be up front?
That's when he pulls. That's when he pulls up. Spock pulls up short when he finds out
these games with the poor brother.
No.
Damage control.
No. Spock's getting ready to go full. Spock's getting ready to go full wolf on her until she says you're going to Vulcan.
No, I think he was going full wolf until she went, I don't understand.
That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at.
He pulls up short.
She comes up. She knows she likes him.
He didn't pull up short. No. She did.
She knows she knows she likes him. He starts to reciprocate in this moment and she backs off. Why play that game to begin with? You bringing him soup, homemade soup. You didn't do it because the doctor told you. The doctor didn't know about it.
She thought
these females are playing games.
She thought she was getting Prince Charming, and she got the big bad wolf.
Do you see him put his hand up?
Yeah.
Well, she approaches him, and then he stops her.
Look at him.
So
look at those fangs.
Well, he's like, I had a most startling dream.
Yeah.
You were trying to tell me something, and I couldn't hear you.
See,
Right here. So
That's
she
Spock.
does kind of.
Yeah,
Oh,
she
yeah.
approaches and he
That's Spock.
stops her. But he's having these dreams.
Spock didn't have a dream.
No,
He just took what he knew.
No, he said he had a dream.
I think Audio Arthur's got a good point here.
He took.
She was moving towards him, and then he put his hand up, and then he said, we shouldn't, deny our natures. She's like, I don't understand. Like, I was moving towards you, and now you just stopped me, and now you're saying come forward. He's the one
He
the
took.
one
He
playing
took
games.
what he knew. He took what he knew, and he was about to work with it
Yeah.
until he found out he was back on the Vulcan train.
He had self-control kick back in.
Well, you know why?
For all,
You know why?
One word.
For all you Star
Trek.
Trek,
Starts with a T, ends with a G.
for all you Star Trek ladies,
You can't. They don't want to hear you now. They don't want to hear you
who
now.
think about and fantasize about
They don't want to hear you now.
a Vulcan male.
They're mad at you.
You're talking about a dude with no restraint at a certain time in his life. I don't know if you can handle the love.
Well,
This whole episode, now that we're here, is about the biology of the Vulcan.
Right.
It's about the biology of the Vulcan.
the biological imperative.
The biological imperative, which every human has,
Yes.
except ours are not 7 years out in abeyance.
Yeah, we don't have.
So
we
just-
don't have a biological purge once every 7
right.
years.
So just think about that Saturday night when your imperative is rocking you. You don't get those but once every 7 years, and they rip your sanity away.
That's a weekend for some people. but I believe
So they get in the turbo lift, and they're gonna beam down, and Spock is like, "There's a brief ritual.
it's gonna be rough,
Captain
fellas.
Kirk, Kirk, can you stand with me?" And
I
he's
can.
like,
I can.
I
have,
will.
I can have visitors. I can
I
have
can
friends.
I can have my closest.
Well, yeah,
okay.
only your closest
Closest
people to you.
associates.
yeah.
So it's a very private ritual.
Right. And he chooses Kirk, and he also chooses McCoy, which solidifies the three.
And even then,
He says, "I shall be honored, sir." That's
Yes.
what McCoy says.
he's struggling to convey to them how this thing really works because he's still somewhat embarrassed by it. It seems because he knows what's coming.
Right.
So they go to the bridge, and because they're at Vulcan, and they're getting the authorization from Vulcan Space Command
Vulcan Space Control
to
go into
go
orbit.
into orbit and disembark,
Yes,
beam down.
beam down.
And there's a special message from Woo-wee to Pring.
Is that her first name? Ooh wee.
I've dumped her so. Daystrom has dubbed her first name
What-
Woo-wee.
Spring.
What does ooh-wee mean in Vulcan?
It means hottie.
Oh, okay.
It means hottie in Vulcan for you Star Trek aficionados. Woo-wee.
So
Means
T'Pring appears on the
On the screen.
on the screen, and there's some words back and forth: parted but never parted, helloed but never goodbye, up but never downed. And then Uhura goes, "She's beautiful, Mr. Spock. Who is she?
Lovely.
She's lovely, Mr. Spock. Who is she?"
And
He's
she's
like,
got the special reverb on her.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
her voice is echoing like she's Apollo or
I think that
somebody.
was in Spock's head, personally.
Oh, that's Dupree reaching out.
And Spock goes, "She's T'Pring."
Now, clearly knowing what we know later, all they said to each other was not from the heart. That's just what you say when you
that's
come to
just
your
standard-
betrothed.
That's
It's the
just a
standard greeting.
greeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He says, "She's T'Pring, my wife," and they immediately cut to Chapel.
No, he said, "Ooh wee, that ooh wee's my wife."
Look at Chapel. Look at Chapel.
Chapel.
They even cut to her before he finishes saying he says my wife, and she's already on the screen.
And McCoy's looking around, and Kirk's got that stupid grin.
Kirk's like, uh-oh. That's the look I get when I do my shenanigans.
Yeah, well, see, Kirk's not thinking. He said, "What's the problem, Spock? There's 200 some odd chicks on this ship. You can get your needs met."
He doesn't understand. It doesn't work that way. Some people have character.
So then
No, there's some Nurse Chapel's available and willing,
But Spock has particular needs.
and that's what we find out.
Spock is married.
He's heavily engaged
Yes.
or something.
So they cut to the planet, and
beautiful CGI.
Awesome
Oh, yeah.
remaster shot.
Remastered
Awesome.
shot out of I think that's from that shot there is they mirrored the shot from
Star Trek 3.
Star Trek 3, the Search for Spock.
Or was it Star Trek 4? Where they actually go to Vulcan. Star Trek 4.
Okay.
Star Trek 3 is where they get him back and they go to
I thought
Vulcan.
they did, at that very end they get.
They do land and they
Yeah,
pick it up in 4. He's still there. Yeah.
Now, what you find out here, this whole pedestal is owned by Spock's family.
The temple, yeah.
Right.
This is Spock's territory, his home territory.
Yes.
So Spock got bucks. So for you women that want Vulcan husbands, Spock got a lot of jewels.
For over 2,000 years, his family owned that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, his dad's his dad's a pretty high placed official, and it makes sense.
So as we're going through and they land and they're at the marriage ceremony, and Kirk and McCoy are clueless about what's going on, and Spock they have a couple of words.
Yeah, and in the midst of this, they explain the betrothal.
Yeah, but McCoy makes the point that I just made. They have no emotions, and every 7 years, that is a high price to pay when you go off the rails.
Yes.
Go off the rails. So,
and they've dealt with.
And they do a little foreshadowing about the
atmosphere.
temperature and the thin atmosphere, which becomes important.
It does.
At some point.
And they do cover Pon Farr with some other Vulcan characters in other series.
Oh, really?
It comes up.
Oh, yeah. I know what
Comes
you're
up.
about there. So then he says the marriage party's on the way, and Kirk's like, wait a second, I thought you were already married. And he goes, well, it's not really a marriage. At 7, we kind of read each other's minds. Less of a marriage, more than a betrothal.
Yeah, arranged. It's an arranged marriage, and it's time to fulfill it. Essentially,
right. I don't think the 7-year-olds willingly read each other's minds. I think they were prompted by the parents.
Oh, it's a ceremony.
Probably some parental control in the mind reading, so their minds are somewhat tied.
It's a ceremony. Then it's a betrothal ceremony.
So the young girl he was looking at earlier, and the monitor was Depraying at the age she was when the ceremony had took place.
Yes. And we finally get the term Kuna Kal-if-fee.
Kuna Kal-if-fee.
Yes, which is the
marriage or challenge.
Marriage or challenge. So we've got that and the Pon Farr.
So
in our vocabulary.
Yes.
So and then they come. I always thought they had a Romulan look to them with the headgear. I don't know why that association was always in my mind.
Well, that's because the prop guys took the Romulan helmets and painted them. That's why they look that way.
And they even used some of the Romulan actors
yes.
from Balance of Terror. So Stan is Commander Decius.
You know Stan.
Yes.
You've seen Stan.
Yes, I know. But I'm just saying that's why it always reminded me, and I didn't know that they painted it. But
those are the same helmets.
The Romulans are an offshoot of the Vulcan race.
Right.
They are Vulcans that left Vulcan because of the separation between the thoughts of pure logic and emotions.
Mm-hmm.
The Romulans maintained their emotions, and the Vulcans suppressed their emotions. That would mean the Romulans have a 7-year freak out as well.
No, they got the Pon Farr issue solved.
Oh,
they have emotion.
They go.
That's right. Yeah,
they go freaky whenever they want to.
That's why he's the Admiral.
They chase.
24/7.
They produce whenever they like. Yes. Yeah. Very sensible, isn't it?
So then they carry in T'Pau, not to be confused with T'Prang, but once again to show my lack of total understanding of the Star Trek universe. Is she the T'Pau from Enterprise?
That's what I was wondering.
I don't know.
She shouldn't be because
of the age difference.
The age T'Pau from Enterprise wouldn't be that old by the time you got to this point in Star Trek time.
Seeing how Vulcans don't age like regular humans.
Okay.
Well,
Kenobi was only supposed to be 57.
Well, they retconned that.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if you factor in Enterprise, which let the argument about what is canon and what is not begin in the comments right now. T'Pau's a young Vulcan lady going out with Jonathan Archer and company, and you blow by to Kirk's days, it's 20 years later, maybe,
Really? Oh, yeah.
maybe 20, 25 years later. She's not that old lady.
Okay.
Shouldn't be.
Yeah, she should still be in ooey status.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now, maybe T'Pau is the surname and she's in that family,
Right. That's how I was
which
thinking. Maybe
makes her a
she's
high
daughter.
mucky muck
Maybe she's a daughter.
daughter. Yeah.
Because T'Pau had connections within
T'Pau.
Starfleet.
We are gonna find out T'Pau has juice.
Right.
T'Pau has
Well, not
magic.
this T'Pau. I'm talking about the Enterprise T'Pau. She
Well,
had
she
connections
had-
within.
She has a fair amount of juice too.
Right. So
Yeah.
she's probably related to the family. They probably pulled the name and used it because of Star Trek fandom.
Probably.
But
And so they introduced the idea of how important the Federation Council is,
right.
Yes.
because they say she's the only person that's ever turned a seat down on the
Yeah,
council.
they opened the seat for her and she said no.
Ooh.
She said to be the Vulcan, to be in control on Vulcan is better.
Well, later on, Kirk makes a statement that she is all of Vulcan in one package. She
Yes.
is it.
Yes.
She is it.
She's
Not
it.
the president of the United States. She's the president of the world.
She's the Queen of Sheba.
I always thought that it looked the way they did, had a sort of Chinese look off of it.
There's an Asian aesthetic
Yeah.
in the Vulcans.
I also like the choice that they didn't over accentuate her ears.
Right.
Her hair kind of comes down there. It was you could focus more on her as an actor, and she did a great. I always thought she did a great job.
Oh yeah, she carries that power. She comes off as somebody who's not to be crossed.
For a character that's episodic, one time,
Yeah.
like she stayed with me all these years.
Yes.
She makes an impact.
She makes a definite
I could
impact.
hear her voice or just see a picture, one or the other, and I would know who T'Pau was.
Yeah.
For me is when she's like Raka.
Yeah, she
Kreka,
Yeah,
She-
stop.
Kreka.
she definitely leaves an impact.
Yes.
And we're talking mostly young boys who are watching Star Trek at this time and
Right.
who are automatically caught up in the throes of the biological urges. This episode,
Is that a confession?
it's a confession for every young boy.
It is. It is.
Every
Actually,
young boy who gets to see ooh-wee.
You're getting the two baseline imperatives for a young man. You have the mother figure,
Yeah, the power,
the power, and you
the
have
ooh-wee.
you the oi. Yeah.
Because then they swing over a view and they
Well, it's interesting. Interesting. First, the first thing that T'Pau says, she goes, "Spock, is our rituals open to the outworlders?"
Yeah.
She's like, "Would you bring these bums here?
So who are
You
these
got
guys?
scuzzy humans dragging along behind you."
You bringing humans? in?
short
She didn't even
lifespan
pretend.
humans.
She didn't even pretend. She didn't even say hi first. She's like, "Spock,
Yeah,
what do you got these bums with you?"
and you get the vibe that if she goes like this, she snaps the fingers, and Kirk and McCoy are doomed.
Well,
they're in the
well,
trunk
what
of a Cadillac at a water park.
Well, what Kirk says when he sees her, he goes, McCoy, you know who she is? She's the person on the
She's
planet.
T'Pau.
She's the Vulcan on the planet, and she's here at Spock's ceremony.
Like, who is Spock?
And his mom and dad aren't here.
It's like, who is Spock?
Right. So Spock is definitely up on the food chain.
Yes,
He's, as they say, politically connected.
privileged.
So she's
I don't
basically,
use
you
that
need to
term.
get these guys out of here.
Right.
And Spock is like, "It's my right," and hits her with the rules. And she's like, "Okay, but what you're about to see comes down from ancient times." And,
you gotta respect it.
and she says to Spock, she says, "You going to vouch for their behavior?" And he goes, "Yeah, with my life."
Right.
And she's like, "Okay, because it can get messy
That even
in the coot, not Kal-if-fee."
that even pulls Kirk up and McCoy when he says "with my life." So now that's a restrainer on them.
Mhm.
You know, Spock has this much respect for them,
Right. And
this much friendship with them.
and they also know that they got to watch their P's and Q's and make sure they don't embarrass their.
Oh, they
Go
call her ma'am. They're ma'aming her
Oh yeah, she's it.
up and down.
She's it. Now Kirk goes to other planets and he be talking down to planetary leaders. But her, he's like, whoa.
He'd be like, "T'Pau, listen." Instead, he's like, "Excuse me, ma'am."
Ma'am.
Right. You see the beefcake waiting with the heavy.
Yeah, the hatchet man,
That's it, man.
the executioner,
Oh, that dude will break a foot off in all three of them.
and Stan with his resting anger face.
Oh yeah, So then Spock goes over to hit the gong to
And start the
Hold
wedding.
on,
Start the
before
wedding.
Before we get to the gong, they pan over and
Oh,
zoom up
we
on
go.
ooh wee,
Oh, we go.
ooh wee, and they give you a good look at T'Pring, and T'Pring is definitely a +10.
And let that be a lesson to everyone.
What, +10s are crazy?
No, we'll find out.
Oh, that's damage control.
This is a red alert.
Say the more beautiful they are, the crazier they are.
No, I'm not crazy. No, not crazy.
What you trying to say,
Well,
Admiral
let's go.
Red Shirt?
Let's go forward and see.
No, what you trying to say?
We'll
I
get
want to
there.
understand
You will.
because
You
ooh
will.
wee is definitely
You will. You
she's
will.
definitely an eye catcher.
You will. You will. T'Pring.
So he goes over to ring the gong to start the wedding, and she goes over, puts her hand up, and says, Kal-if-fee.
Not she, ooh wee.
Ooh wee says Kal-if-fee, which is the challenge.
starts with a T, ends with a G. Stops the ceremony and calls the challenge.
Yep.
Eh.
And Beefcake, Spock turns and goes to talk to T'Pau, excuse me. Beefcake jumps in the way with the hatchet,
Hatchet man.
and Spock pops forward motion.
So now Spock goes over there and starts getting his game on.
Getting his mind right for what's
Yep.
coming.
And Kirk and McCoy says, well, we don't understand what's going on. And she says, well, she's called for the challenge, which is her right. And so she's going to pick a champion. And so now Uwe goes, by my right, by my ancestry, X, Y, and Z, I choose him, and points at Kirk.
And Kirk and McCoy still don't understand the implications of the challenge.
No, they don't have a clue. They don't have a clue.
And it's funny because actually T'Pau said a couple things at this up to this point where they should have kind of been like, life has been mentioned a few times,
Yeah, but
death has been mentioned.
This is a very civilized society, and for there to be a death,
except for sometimes.
but they don't know. This is the first time they're running up against it. All their knowledge of Vulcans is they're very civilized. They're very composed. And for this to be a life or death challenge,
It's not in their experience. They wouldn't expect it.
Right. they
Well,
wouldn't
remember,
expect
too, this is part of the writing, and we talk about this a lot. Kirk and McCoy don't know anything more than we do.
They
And
don't
it
know.
would be a very easy trick at this point to somehow for McCoy to say, Jim, there's something about this ceremony. I can't
just
quite
don't-
remember
I
what it
just
is,
don't
but
like
we
it.
probably
Yeah, I
shouldn't
read-
be doing this.
I
you
read
know?
about this. And,
Yeah.
You know,
I
There's
heard
more
it.
to it than that. I'm not sure.
Right.
And
with today's writing, there'll be somebody commentating in the background, giving the
somebody
audience
would know.
everything that's going on, and
Yeah.
they would know. Although they shouldn't know, but they would know, and all this stuff.
or Nurse Chapel would be reading it up on VDT and go, to the death, and then you'd see her run and try to get to a communicator and stuff. And it's like, but no, this is the way they did it. You don't know anything more than they do. I didn't know that this was to the death when I was a kid.
Man, for ooh wee, you should have. I knew it was going to be to the death.
Yeah, I didn't know
When
it
I
was to
saw
the
ooh
death.
wee, I said,
Maybe.
when she chooses a challenger,
I
man,
thought the
somebody
challenge
gotta
was going to
die.
be like. I thought it was going to be like CrossFit. I thought they were going to be who could do how many push-ups and who could run with a weighted vest
You
on.
thought there was going to be some
do them
fireman's
funky,
carries?
do them funky pull-ups and stuff. That's what I thought they were doing.
Ooh wee, it's
Maybe-
about ooh wee.
maybe-
Who gonna get ooh wee? It's gonna be to the death.
Maybe I'm inferring it because of just having seen it before. But when we watched it to do the cast, I'm listening to T'Pau and I'm hearing it's in there. They haven't come out and said it, but it's in there, and maybe it's because I'm inferring and I already know, but I'm getting out of T'Pau's words. This is permanent.
Yeah, I never did until I was just as surprised as Kirk was when she goes, "This is to the death,"
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh,
But the point, the whole, she's gonna be married according to Vulcan law to somebody.
right."
Right.
Either the arranged marriage goes through and she's married to Spock, or she's married to the victor of the challenge. She's gonna be married no matter what. And it's according to Vulcan societal laws. She doesn't get the right to pick other than who the challenger
through the
is.
challenge.
Right.
To the
Yes.
challenger. She can pick her boyfriend, And now if he's man enough to step up into the ring and beat down Spock, and as we can see, the stun is not under the impulsion. He's not. He's not.
Yeah, he's not, because I think there's a couple of things that motivate Kirk here.
He's ready.
Number one is
he came ready for the fight though.
Yeah, number one is Spock is not at his peak. Spock is down at least 50% on hit points, and his bar is down, because first of all, we can see coming up that Kirk can even handle him, because normally Spock, we saw that in Mirror Spock throw 5 people around. The other thing is I think so Kirk is like, if we let Stan fight Spock's
gonna lose.
He's gonna get killed, or he'll lose. At this point, Kirk's thinking
he's
lost.
Gonna lose.
The other thing that Kirk says to justify taking the challenge on, he goes, "Look, I get in trouble, I quit."
Right. He actually says that.
Yeah.
He doesn't know the consequences.
Right. He doesn't know.
But what we have in the show, they were delayed in getting Spock back to Vulcan, and McCoy said his vitals are all messed up.
He's not
He's
peak.
not at 100%.
He's not.
Now, if he would have been there day one, it probably wouldn't have been a fight. But Pring is calculating.
Oh yeah.
He's calculating. But she's going to be married no matter what from their law.
And she's
calculating a way out to win on both sides.
She's taking the initiative.
So for you guys who want Vulcan chicks, understand this, that they can be calculating. And when you talked about a starship,
logic,
you talked about that. Remember, logic is stripped away.
Calculating.
The logic is stripped away for the men, but the women still are what? Calculating.
Yeah, they don't say whether it affects women.
Oh, she doesn't seem to be affected.
You would assume so.
She doesn't seem to be affected.
No.
Well, it doesn't manifest in her
hair. Her hair is not. There's not a strand out of place.
It doesn't manifest the same way.
Her makeup is not smudged an inch.
It doesn't manifest the same way. It
just
doesn't
leave
mean
that.
she's not
Just leave that up there for Captain Daystrom right there.
No, don't. It's going to distract you.
Ooh-wee.
Oh man. So
Kirk says, "Okay, I'll
take the challenge.
I'll take the challenge." And she's like, "Okay, well, if you survive round 1, then we go to round 2." And he goes, "Excuse me, ma'am, what's this surviving round 1?" She goes, "This is to the death."
And the powerful thing here is T'Pau has already explained to them that Spock is in the blood fever. He's totally out of control. She's basically saying he's going to be catatonic at this point, and he's not going to be able to communicate.
Not going to recognize you.
Not going to recognize you. But when it comes down to it, Spock musters enough self-will or control to come to T'Pau.
Or he don't have enough Vulcan in him.
Well, what we missed the point is when she actually chooses her champion.
No, we called it. We said it.
She comes down slowly, measurably, and she passes up Stun.
Who's just as surprised as everybody else.
So she haven't even told Stun her plan. Her plan.
And that should scare Stun.
That's what I'm saying. She picks Kirk unnecessarily.
Oh no, she's got a plan.
Oh, she's got a plan. They all have a plan.
She's a smart girl. You're just trolling.
Oh, I'm going there.
You're just trolling for damage.
I'm going there.
You're just trolling for damage.
I've got my T'Pring.
You've got your
I'm already sold in. For all you young folks out there,
here it comes.
Be careful of the ooh-wee.
This is your tribute to those hardwood floors you just had to pay for.
Be careful of the ooh-wee.
Oh.
So then Spock in the blood feud starts begging.
Begs T'Pau to
begging. He's begging her. I beg you.
Let Kirk out.
Beg you. And she's like, "A tea, not Vulcan?" Like, you shouldn't even be able to talk right now.
Right.
And she's like, "It's done.
Yep.
Here we go. You survive round 1. We go to round 2.
I like.
You like?
Well, I'm thinking. I like the fact that when Kirk and McCoy discuss it, McCoy's like, "Hey, you can still get out of this. You don't have to.
Oh, he tells him, you probably should, Jim.
Probably shouldn't get out of this. The climate's working against you. Spock's on 10. You know, you this is not a good idea. And Kirk says, I can't look like a chump in front of Tupac.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, that was the third reason.
There's the gravity of it. It's like, sure.
He's gone from one ambassador type mission at the what was it?
Altair 6.
Altair 6, and now he's standing in front of all of Vulcan.
Yes.
Because I think Kirk is under the strong belief that in Spock's present condition, he can knock him out.
Well, I don't know if he's so certain he can beat Spock as he's certain that Spock can't beat Stein. That's where I got out of it. He's certain.
That's true.
He's certain he can't take Stein.
Yeah.
So he's gonna take that risk to spare Spock facing Stein, who's clearly been hitting the racks, ready to get his ooh-wee captain.
Yeah, definitely.
Because Stein was ready to rock and roll, affected or not.
So when she comes down and she picks...
See, if I can knock Spock out, he says, if I can knock him out,
right,
then it's over with.
So when she comes down and she picks Kirk, Stun is upset.
Yes.
He's upset.
Because he's ready to get it on.
He starts mouthing off.
Yeah, well, the beefcase with the
hatchet man.
Yeah, he starts mouthing off. He's like, this is my right. And they're like,
yeah, this ooh-wee belongs.
Cut your head off.
This ooh-wee belongs to me.
Yeah. He starts mouthing off.
I'm not giving her up to Spock.
The hatchet man is an extension of Tupau's finger. She points, he cuts.
So there's the bell ringing and everything, and then you have to make the decision by the end of it.
The tying on of the sash.
He says, I'll do it. And like you said, if I get in trouble, I quit. Spock's honor is satisfied, and we all look good. So that's Kirk's plan. Good luck, Kirk.
And that's where Kirk actually says, I can't look bad in front. I can't look like a punk in front of Tupac.
Right.
So they proceed. She calls for Kirk's decision. Kirk gives it at this point, not knowing that it is to the death.
Right, still not understanding.
And the combat is started with
for the possession of the woman.
The possession.
Yes.
So Vulcan women don't get to choose their own husbands.
And
or maybe it's just Vulcan women's of a rich family.
Well, not Vulcan women don't get to choose their husbands. Vulcan children
don't
get to choose their mates.
That's true. But that could just be a rich family thing.
The first weapon is the Lirpa. The Lirpa.
First thing I thought of when we were watching it is I'd like to see a Vulcan with a Lirpa and a Klingon with a bat lift and see how that turns out.
I'll take a human with a phaser and shoot him from a distance.
Well, yeah, that's the smart thing to do. Yeah. I mean,
but there's some weight to these because Spock grabs it and he's ready to go. They put it in Kirk's hand and he drops it like a barbell.
Kirk's like, whoa, these things are heavy.
That's right.
I was also just thinking, like, Spock, all the times Kirk and Spock have been back to back in a room full of bad guys, Spock has neglected to tell him that he's proficient in all the use of all these dangerous weapons.
Oh, they're hanging up in his room.
But he's never told.
That's right.
He's never told Kirk.
How many?
If you got a Glock on the wall, you probably want to assume the guy knows how to use it.
How many pacifists do you know that got axes hanging up in their room?
Hey, but
it's right.
It's
Jeez,
like,
OPs.
But hey, Spock, when we went up against the Klingons,
Spock's a warrior poet. He's got.
But
the, what's it called?
The ukulele. The banjo?
Yeah, the banjo.
And he's got a harp. He's got a harp
and he's got axes on the wall.
But no, I'm looking at Spock after this and I'm like, when we beamed down and fought the 15 Klingons, you couldn't bring the Lirpa? We could have used the Lirpa when we fought all those guys.
I think the Lirpa's only for the Pon Farr.
I agree.
Yeah.
But
it's a traditional weapon that they probably don't.
Was interesting too in what was it in Wrath of Khan, that when they showed Kirk's house, he had a bunch of dueling pistols.
Yeah, he had a collection of pistols on the wall.
Dueling pistols, not just regular pistols.
Yeah, rapiers on the wall too.
Yep.
So yeah, it's the Lirpa, and if they get past the Lirpa, the Ahn'woon.
Yeah. So thus begins the Lirpa fight, and we get the great combat music. Dun, 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 dun,
and it's a good fight.
It is a good fight. But I tell you, you're going to talk about the 4K?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
when you go back and watch this remastered on 4K and the people are 2-3 feet tall, you notice that the stunt doubles scream at you, stick out like a sore thumb, and don't look anything like William Shatner or Leonard Nimoy at all.
Yeah.
Something you totally don't notice when you're watching your 19-inch TV when you're a child.
Yeah.
But the classic shirt cut though.
Oh yeah, Kirk's shirt never survives. Breaks the gong.
Ooh. And then, but that midsection hit that he does on Spock, that you can feel that one.
Well, but the fight enders when Spock nails him in the face. Kirk's stunned, but he really should have been. It should have been it.
Yeah,
it should have been it.
But it's good though because you've got all those variables in your head. It's hot for Kirk. The air's thinner. Spock's down, 50% or more of his strength and endurance and everything. So it's believable. I never looked at this and said that either one of them were holding anything back.
No,
I didn't. No. I didn't think Kirk wasn't going to use the sharp end of the stick, but he didn't hesitate to use the dull end of the stick.
Right. So when Spock got hit in the stomach by the dull end, that would have been
the blunt end.
The blunt end. That would have been the other guy, stabbing Spock right in the
cutting Spock open.
Yep.
All right.
I think the first engagement where they were pushing on each other, Stan would have just shoved him to the ground and just cut him in half. Right. I don't think the Stan Spock fight would have been more than 30 seconds.
No, I don't think so.
I think it would have been more of a struggle than that. But I don't. But I think Stan would have won.
Spock's not fighting with any alacrity of.
Stan is thick, man. He's that bruh is juiced. He's not. You never see Nimoy with his shirt off.
Stan's had how many years to prepare? He knows he's going in to take somebody.
Yeah. And that gets to the point. Uwe is sitting there, emotionless, depressing, and the calculating look in her eyes is like, I'm gonna get what I want out of this.
One way or the other.
One way or the other, and I don't care who it hurts.
Right.
I'm gonna get mine.
Well, all is fair in love and war.
And
who believes that?
And if you mess with my love,
true.
I'm going to war. But
so they get through the Lirpa barely. Kirk's has about a 18-inch laceration above his nipples, in which his shirt is torn, and he's bleeding and
breathing heavily.
It's just a flesh wound.
Does T'Pau call Kraika?
She calls the round.
Okay, she calls the round, and then McCoy says, "Is this Vulcan chivalry?" Right? And she, the air's too thin, and she's like, "The air is the air. What can be done?" And he goes, "I got a hypo full of triax compound here. I can compensate for the air. I got super
soldier serum. I can pump into my boy.
That's right.
McCoy.
Well, I'm going to cheat. We're humans.
McCoy.
We can lie.
McCoy presents to the queen better living through chemistry.
I got some sustenance and opium and everything stacked up in this.
I'm juicing my boy up.
Let's put Kirk on the roids. If his heart explodes after the fight, that's okay.
We should have just did that for Spock and let him beat a hole and stun.
That's true. Yeah.
Spock might went into a roid rage and killed everybody on the plateau.
So the Ahn'woon comes out, which is, I thought as a kid, I was like, what is this? It looks like a belt for a gi. And two little bells on the end of it.
Well, when they give it to Kirk, he's
looking at it like, what do I do with this?
He raises the other hand like, what do I do?
They're actually like South American bolos.
Yeah, you pointed that out to me. I didn't know what those were.
Which are actually very deadly.
Yeah.
If you know how to use them.
Well, apparently
Kirk does. And Kirk doesn't. Kirk doesn't have a clue.
So the Ahn'woon battle is just a few seconds, really.
Yes.
Yeah. And Kirk's kind of looking at him like, is there a trigger on these things? What do I do with it?
Where do I put the battery in? Where's the trigger?
Can I set it for stun?
Right, so it's a very short fight.
And credit to the acting. Outside of being overcome by Spock, William Shatner is kind of
Sir William
is kind of relaying that he's having trouble breathing and that he's not feeling tip top.
Mm-hmm.
In spite of the beating, outside of the beating that he's taking.
Right. He got the COVID. And Spock basically gets the bolo around his neck and chokes him out.
Yep.
Kills him.
Like jujitsu.
And McCoy steps in and gives the final proclamation.
You know, like major hat off to McCoy. I mean, it's like becomes like McCoy episode.
He saves their bacon.
McCoy comes in on some T'Pring level chicanery. Doesn't tell anybody what's happening, and well,
he takes initiative as every starship officer.
He adapts, overcomes.
But we haven't got to the good part,
right?
Because now Uwe starts to explain her logic.
Oh, it's cold too. Boy, it gets cold on Vulcan.
And
woo, it gets cold.
And what I was going to say earlier, what I was thinking earlier, comes up at this point. Evil always looks like that. Good might be pretty too, but evil always looks like that.
Don't you think I know?
But T'Pring is evil.
So the Vulcan aesthetic, the ears, the very poise of ladylike in T'Pring, without emotion, super calculating.
Yeah, it comes off like just horrible.
Super calculating. And it's not because she dislikes him. It's not because she doesn't have those emotions.
No. She just knows what she wants.
She gives her reason. She tells Spock asked her, you know.
He says explain and she says specify.
Right. What do you want to explain?
Right.
So she's very calculating. So she goes on to.
It makes it worse.
Well, first Spock comes in a little bit as the jilted guy, and he goes, I don't see any real logical reason to pick him over me.
She could have pointed to Stein's chest at that point, though.
Yeah, but she
have you seen these abs, Spock?
She points out that Spock has become a legend amongst her people, and she doesn't want to be the wife of
the legend.
Of a legend.
Yep.
Right. She doesn't want to be overshadowed.
Well, then why Kirk? Well,
because what woman wants to be married to a famous, rich, and powerful man?
Well, in Vulcan, maybe none, but in the USA,
it shows
on Earth, everyone.
It shows T'Pring's ambition. Whatever she is on Vulcan, whatever her plan is in her life, being overshadowed or living in the shadow of Spock is not part of that game plan.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. I didn't take it that way. But that's one way of looking at it.
Well, it's his POV.
But as she goes on to explain, I chose why my captain there. Because if I chose him and you lost, you wouldn't want me. Or if you lost, he killed you. He wouldn't want me. And if you killed me, you wouldn't want me because you killed my captain.
And I get stunned.
And I still get stunned. And Stunn's not marred. He's not crippled.
No, she said, if your captain won, he wouldn't want me.
Right. If you won, you'd
be gone.
You would be gone.
No, and she'd still have Stan.
And she'd still
tells
have
him
Stan.
flat out that she'd cheat on him.
She tells him every scenario she'd still have Stan.
Right.
But tells him point blank, and you'll be off flying around in space, and I will be cheating on you. And I will be cheating on you.
And he goes logical, flawlessly logical. And she bows her head and closes her eyes, and she goes, I am honored.
I, for one, wanted to bust out a phaser at that point and set for no evidence.
And how many times have I said it now? She's calculating.
Calculating, yes.
Calculating.
Evil.
And she did it. She didn't. There was no evil croaking laughter. There was no smile on her face.
No.
She was flat out, I will sell you out and get what I want.
More. I'll get what I want, no matter what the case.
And then I remember even as a kid where Spock, it's still cold on Vulcan at this point. She's cold, and then Spock gets cold, and he says, "Stan, she is yours, but you may find that having is not as good as wanting." And he's like, I don't know why. It's illogical, but that's the way that it is. So basically, he says to Stan, "You can have her, but you're probably not going to want her in a while."
Yeah.
Or she might have you bumped off.
So I don't know about sour grapes or what.
Well, interesting geek side note. Star Trek comic book run. They go back and do a story where old T'Pring over there has Stan killed as part of her machinations.
Oh my!
And
oh my!
Yeah. So there you go. Say calculating again, Captain.
Calculating.
Oh my.
So you say evil always looks like that?
Evil always looks like that.
Oh my.
People who are not already attached, find the ugliest one you can.
True love does not look like that.
So Spock walks over, and this is where I think we'll get a sound bite out of this. Spock walks over to Pow
Wow.
and says, "Live long and prosper." And she says, "Live long and prosper, Spock." And he goes, "I shall do neither, for I've killed my captain and my friend."
And that's a great line. This has to go into our data banks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's not over. We get the last cap when they get to the starship and they talk out the
back
episode.
to McCoy. McCoy's still on the planet before he beams up with Kirk's body. Says, "Spock, strangely enough, you are in command."
Yep.
And he asks for orders, and Spock tells him what to do. And, you get that great remaster shot, which is just really cool. Really like that. And
But it's interesting, the beam up of Spock.
They don't.
He's by himself before he beams up.
Yeah.
Everyone else is gone.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of cool.
They filtered out.
Well, he didn't go until they left.
Yeah.
Yeah, he probably waited.
Yeah, it was reflective.
And Kirk earned major respect points from T'Pau for dying.
Yeah, I don't know. Only T'Pau knows what she thinks
Yeah.
of that.
I don't think she was fooled. I don't think the old lady was fooled.
I tend to think she found out at some point, but I think in that moment she would have had to accept.
I didn't think she. I don't. Now that you say it, so I'm going to think about it. I didn't think about it until you brought that up. If that is the case, I think she just kept going because it was not of any interest to her logically what happens to this human.
And it didn't
It's what
violate the
happens.
rules.
Yeah, it happens. She's interested to know what's going to happen here between these three Vulcans.
Right.
At that point, whether he was alive or dead, you're probably right. She
Kirk's
was still going to
inconsequential.
inconsequential. She was still wanted to see what was going to happen here because, was Spock going to claim her and move this forward or not? Because now he had the right.
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 So,
Right. Technically, Uwe belonged to him,
right.
but Uwe declared she was going to cheat.
She wins. I mean, she gets Stan. Stan loses.
She could have done that without all the fight. She could have been married to Spock. Spock would have been gone, and she still would have had Stan.
Part of her wanted to force the issue within the law.
Okay.
She wanted to
So
force.
Uwe's bucking the system,
She's manipulating the system as much as she can.
as Uwe's always do.
'Cause yes. Because notice how I'm not getting that. You getting that.
So he beams up to the ship, and the next thing you see them, they're in
Sick bay.
and it's Nurse Chapel, McCoy, and Spock comes in and starts
Laying out the orders.
Said, of course, I'll resign my commission. You're going to set course to the nearest starbase. Commander
Scotty will take over.
Montgomery will be in command. And at that point,
We should be back over to good old Admiral Cormac.
yeah, that's right.
Theoretically.
Yeah. And as he's saying all that, Kirk walks up behind Spock and says, "You better check with me before you do any of that."
A ghost appears behind him.
A reveal. And then Spock gives one of those great big, huge smiles and shows his emotions. When I was a kid, I loved that.
Yeah.
I loved when he showed emotion. I loved when he got
Those rare
angry.
breaks.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know why I should, but I did.
Because it makes it more important.
Okay.
An individual that has no emotions, when they finally show it, it has more gravity than a guy who's in your face laughing and smiling 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Right.
When that final emotional break is given, it's more precious.
They talked about the guy that was supposed to play the drill sergeant in Full Metal Jacket. He got Arlie Emery ended up taking the role away from the guy who was the door gunner. Remember the door gunner that was shooting everybody?
Yeah.
He was supposed to be the sergeant, okay? And Arlie basically stole the role from him, and Kubrick would never go up in a helicopter, so he was directing this guy. And this guy had done like all the work for years to be in it, and they let him be the door gunner, and he was the one that was going like, get some.
If
And
they run.
Yeah. But what way he was playing it, he was doing a lot of that laughter that you were talking about, and he had the line was, if they run,
they're disciplined.
If they run, they're VC.
VC.
If they stand still, then they're well disciplined VC. And he said it with a laugh. Yeah. And Kubrick called up there after he saw the video feed of it or something and said, "Do it without laughing." And so the way that he delivered that line was, if they run, they're VC. If they stand still, they're well disciplined VC. Right. And that one guy said to him, he goes, "Do you shoot women and children?" He goes, "Yeah, sometimes." And
he says, "Ain't war hell?"
That's not that. It lost the maniacal laughter, and it became real,
and it became more frightening.
Right. Yeah. So that's to your point.
It became more frightening.
Absolutely.
Because it's not meant as a joke. This is just who this guy's
what he's
really
doing.
Is.
Right.
When you see a character like Spock, who's emotionalist all the time, and then there's an opportunity for at a proper point, for true emotions or to come out, then that emotion you grab onto it.
It's a big payoff.
Because it's more real.
Right.
Now we know it's not all real. We know it's acting, but it's at the proper point. If a smile cracks somewhere that doesn't fit in with the story, you lose all the tension built up.
Right.
This is the main thing with these male-female movies, shows, that as soon as they come together as a couple, the show loses
its chemistry.
It loses its chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
And they're hard to maintain.
Right. What do you do with them?
As long as they're constantly at struggle.
What do you do with them after they come together?
What do you do with them afterwards?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. But
so Spock yells, "Jim," and he's like, then he tries to recover and he says, I'm just trying to figure this out. You're not supposed to be here.
And McCoy calls him out.
Yeah. And Kirk says, well, blame it on the doctor. He gave me a neuroparalyzer and simulated death. And then McCoy says, Nurse Chapel, can you excuse us, please? And she walks out and he says, what happened down there? With you and the girl.
The girl. Let's get back to Ooey.
What happened with you and Ooey? And he's like, after the fight, I didn't want her anymore, which I think is a lie. Is that a lie? No, maybe it is.
He said the whole emotional episode experience burned it out of him.
Yeah,
he said
true.
He said he was good after that.
Yeah, it was true then. I thought he was kind of.
He said the madness was gone. This is for this 7-year period. You never know what happens in the next.
Yeah,
there's been a lot of 7-year periods since this episode.
And then McCoy says something like, you can't hide it. You were about to give us an emotional outburst that was going to bring the house down.
Spock's like, I don't know.
At this point, then Admiral Cormac calls in, and DePau
has fixed it
for them.
Major pull. She's told Cormac to get in line.
And Cormac jumped through the hoop.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So Kirk's career is...
Yeah, because Uhura calls down and says...
Got a message from Starfleet.
Yeah, that T'Pau requested that the Enterprise come there and that they were in Cormac granted it. So he's like, how about that, T'Pau?
That's serious juice.
That's serious juice.
T'Pau has power.
That's serious juice.
So then Spock says, well, listen, I was just relieved that Starfleet wasn't going to lose a very competent officer. And McCoy says, in a pig's eye.
Right.
Paralleling that flanking line that Kirk pulled on him about losing a highly competent first officer.
Yeah.
Right.
And
but you got to look at DePau. You're talking about a founding member of Starfleet or
the Federation.
Yeah.
The Vulcans are one of the founding members. It's like the UN.
Yeah.
They probably have veto rights.
Probably.
They had their own ship of purely nothing but Vulcans.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and no telling how many more. Plus a Vulcan Science Council.
Yes, which is an independent
entity that has its own ships.
Right.
So.
Yeah, they never said Vulcan gave up its own fleet.
No, they don't. They still have the Science Council.
Yeah.
All right. So, Vulcan's very powerful.
Just like the Romulans have their own fleet, the Klingons have their own fleet. The Federation seems like mostly an Earth fleet, but it has individuals of different races serving within it. And the Vulcans had their own ship.
Yeah, but it really seems like to me it's only Earth and Vulcan really that has the muscle in the Federation.
Yeah, like like Mark said, other races have people that come to the fleet, serve on ships. And when they carry it forward, you see other species captaining ships and whatnot. But the bulk of it is coming from Earth. And if you go back to how they structured it, that's backed largely by Vulcan. So, yeah, they are the players.
Right.
They get in other episodes who the other players behind them are. There's like 5-6 races that are the core of the Federation. But, yeah, most of the meat's coming from Earth.
Yeah.
As far as the fleet strength. Earth's kind of like America is with the UN, you know.
Right.
All the nuts and bolts and the business end of it is coming from us.
Right, but you still have founding members who have veto rights.
Who have voting and veto rights, yes, absolutely.
And that's Amok Time.
It is.
That is Amok Time.
Yep.
Spock definitely ran amok.
The biological imperatives of Vulcans.
Yep.
And how it plays different than the biological imperative of humans.
I learned 2 things from this episode.
What's that?
Take a phaser with you wherever you go. And control those biological imperatives.
Be careful of the ooh-wees.
Yeah, because when they look like that,
they're plotting and scheming.
To praying is Vulcan for evil.
Click like and subscribe.
Yes. Click like and subscribe, and we'll help you with your other imperatives next time on Men on Track.
I don't know if we can actually help them.
We can help them. We can help them. Energize.